Herrnstein and Murray ask, do blacks score differently from whites on standardized tests of cognitive ability? They respond, if samples are chosen to be representative of the American population, the answer has been yes for every known test of cognitive ability that meets basic psychometric standards of reliability and validity. How large is the black-white difference? Herrnstein and Murray ask. They respond, the usual answer to this question is one standard deviation. In discussing IQ tests, for example, the black mean is commonly given as 85, the white mean as 100, and the standard deviation is 15. Resonating through the passages I have just cited is the intellectual inferiority or cognitive deficit of blacks. Given the conceptual and empirical significance of cognitive ability in relation to what may loosely be called the progress of womankind, one perforce must ask, from whence comes the putative transgenerational cognitive deficit of black people? Again, one turns to the quadrumvirate of de Gobineau, Carroll, Herrnstein, and Murray. De Gobineau observes, the animal character that appears in the shape of the pelvis is stamped upon the Negro from birth and foreshadows his destiny. His intellect will always move within a narrow circle. If he is not, however, a mere brute, for behind his low receding brow, in the middle of his skull, we can see signs of a powerful energy, however crude its objects. If his mental faculties are dull and even non-existent, he often has an intensity of desire and so of will which may be called terrible. Many of his senses, especially taste and smell, are developed to an extent unknown to the other two races, the yellow and the white. Carroll notes that diminutive brain weights carrying with them a corresponding diminution of intelligence is a defining attribute of blacks. Referring to a study done by Stanford B. Hunt on the brain weights of white soldiers and black soldiers at the time of the Civil War, which found that the weights were 1,224 grams for whites and 1,331 grams for blacks. Carroll calls out the diminished intelligence of blacks. He goes on to observe that this and all other scientific investigation, says he, all other scientific investigation of this subject proves the Negro to be an ape and simply stands at the head of the ape family as the lion stands at the head of the cat family. And we feel assured that a careful consideration of this subject must lead any rational mind, note, any rational mind, to decide that the white with his exalted physical and mental characters and the Negro with his ape-like physical and mental characters are not the same progeny of one primitive pair. He continues, this being true, it follows that if the white was created in the image of God, then the Negro was made after some other model. And a glance at the Negro indicates the model. His very appearance suggests the ape. Concerning the intelligence gap or cognitive deficit of blacks in relation to whites, Herrnstein and Murray note that it cannot be wholly explained by social and environmental considerations. They observe that whites are characteristically stronger than blacks on subtests involving spatial perceptual ability. Blacks are characteristically stronger than whites in subtests such as arithmetic and immediate memory, both of which involve retention and retrieval of information. Jefferson's remarks concerning memory, reason, and imagination should surely resonate most loudly here. This difference then between blacks and whites in the Murray-Herrnstein belief, this difference along with a host of others pertaining to cognitive ability is, they say, not the result of bias tests in the ordinary sense of the term. It may well include some as yet unknown genetic component, but nothing suggests it is entirely genetic. The term entirely is critical here. It plays the customary role of a hedge word. The cognitive deficit of blacks may not be entirely genetic, but it is at least partially so. This is the only sound conceptual inference that one can draw from the language of Herrnstein and Murray, assuming that they do not play Alice in Wonderland with the use of words. And so, the racist answers adduced by de Gobineau, Carroll, Murray, and Herrnstein to the question, from whence comes the putative transgenerational cognitive deficit of black people, is plain, stark, and striking, to wit, God and nature. De Gobineau rejects the view that between some races and the larger apes there is only a slight difference of degree and none of kind, a belief, of course, which Carroll holds. De Gobineau rejects that as an insult to humanity, though it is his conviction that human races are unequal. Herrnstein and Murray share de Gobineau's sentiment pertaining to the inequality of the races. They prefer to speak of ethnic groups. Inequality, at least in relation to purported differences in cognitive ability. They do not dirty themselves with Carroll's diatribe concerning whites being godlike and blacks being ape-like. Yet intriguingly, insofar as intelligence and cognitive ability grounded in the fields of work for which one is equipped, and spheres of life properly open to one, Murray and Herrnstein come mighty close to Carroll. It is Carroll's belief that scientific research demonstrates that the white man whom God designated, equipped, and clothed with authority to subdue the earth never descended to savagery. On the other hand, the Negro, when uncontrolled by the white, becomes a mere wanderer in the woods, and like any other animal subsists upon the spontaneous products of the earth and the proceeds of the chase. The mass of scriptural and scientific evidence, say Carroll, clearly indicates that the pure-blooded white is the creature whom God designed should perform the mental labor necessary to subdue the earth, and the Negro is the creature whom God designed to perform the manual labor. For Carroll, as is true of de Gobineau, blacks lack the intellect to fill a variety of societal roles. Cognitive deficit delimits their life chances and their proper place in society.